Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really interesting and frankly complex set of viewpoints about Vladimir Putin and the war in Ukraine.
That's right. We're using excerpts from a YouTube video transcript as our source material for this dive.
And the idea is to sort of unpack the key points, look at the contrasting perspectives it brings up.
Exactly, and pull out some maybe less obvious details to really give you a clear sense of the conversation captured in this specific transcript.
And there's a core tension, isn't there, running through it? This question of, has Putin fundamentally changed recently?
Or is what we're seeing now just, consistent with how he's always operated?
That seems to be the central question the source keeps circling back to.
Yeah, it really pits those two interpretations against each other. It's kind of the lens for the whole discussion.
Okay, so let's get into it. Starting with some recent comments the transcript mentions from Donald Trump about Putin's actions, it sounds like he's expressed some dissatisfaction.
Yes, that's what the transcript highlights. It quotes Trump noting Putin is killing a lot of people, sending rockets into cities, things like that.
Specific quotes mentioned.
Yeah, like, I'm not happy with what Putin's doing, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
And the source also points out he apparently used phrases like, something happened to this guy.
And I don't like it. Yeah, and even characterized Putin as having gone absolutely crazy.
So that presents a picture, at least in Trump's view, as presented here, of a leader who's somehow shifted, changed.
But then almost immediately, the transcript brings in this strong counterview, notably from Fox News' Brit Hume.
Right. And Hume really pushes back on that idea of a recent change in Putin, doesn't he?
He does, significantly. His argument, as laid out in this discussion, is that Putin has, always been a particularly brutal dictator.
Always been this way.
Yeah, someone who Hume says is willing to take whatever measures he thought necessary to get what he wants or, get away with things.
And he's quoted directly saying something like,
I don't think Putin has changed. I don't know what the president's talking about. So from this perspective, the war isn't some new crazy turn.
it's just existed.
Entirely consistent with his sort of established character and track record.
Okay, and the transcript tries to explain why Hume might see it that way, right? Suggesting Trump had an odd conception of Putin.
Exactly. That Trump always had a very odd conception of Vladimir Putin, maybe thinking they could be kind of friends and partners, make deals, that sort of thing.
Friends and partners.
And Hume, in this discussion at least, seems to hope that maybe what's happening now has finally led Trump to a real moment of truth about Putin.
Okay, so what basis does the source material offer for that odd conception idea? It points back to Trump praising Putin in the past.
It does, yeah. It brings up Trump's statements about having a very good relationship. Not just Putin, but it also references Xi and Kim Jong-un.
And viewing these relationships as positive.
As a positive thing, yes. That's the framing presented.
And didn't the transcript also mention Trump calling Putin smart?
Yes, and contrasting him with what he apparently called dumb U.S. leaders. These examples, pulled from the source, are sort of used to build that picture Hume is painting.
Interesting.
There's even a kind of specific little detail in the transcript where Trump mentions Putin supposedly respecting Melania Trump more than him.
Really?
Yeah. These sort of personal dynamics, as presented, get woven into the bigger political commentary in the source.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The source also dives into that promise Trump made and repeated, right? Ending the war in 24 hours if you were president.
That's right. He's quoted saying it again. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
Quite a claim. And the method described in the transcript, how would he do that?
Well, the plan, as described, involves meeting both Putin and Zelensky, then identifying their, quote, weaknesses and strengths.
And then make a deal in a day.
And then somehow making a deal within that, 24-hour window. That's the description.
Wow. And what's really striking is how the source puts that promise right next to the current reality. He calls it a bloodbath.
It does, a really grim picture. It even gives a statistic from reporting saying 5,000 young soldiers are being killed every single week on average, plus others in towns.
That's staggering. And Trump himself, the transcript says, describes satellite pictures as so bad, so horrible.
Right. Strong words.
Yet he still maintains, according to the source, that this is not our war.
Yeah, that perspective is noted, implying it wouldn't have happened under his watch, suggesting the previous administration kind of allowed it.
Okay. So what about influencing the conflict? Does the source talk about leverage, potential actions?
It does. It mentions both economic and military leverage.
And economic seems key. Sanctions?
Economic leverage, yeah, particularly sanctions, is highlighted. The argument presented really focuses on Russia's dependence on oil and energy sales.
Ah, the old gas station with nuclear weapons line. The transcript mentions that.
It does, yes. Nothing but a gas station with nuclear weapons. And notes there's some truth in that. The point being, their economy is just so tied to energy.
Right.
And because of that, the transcript suggests secondary sanctions could be powerful, targeting the buyers of Russian oil and gas.
Not just Russia itself.
Exactly. The idea being that could really hit the Russian economy hard, maybe make Putin feel it enough to, well, change course.
And the source brings in Senator Grassley on this.
Yes, quotes him saying something like, "I've had enough of Putin killing innocent people. President Trump take action, at least on sanctions. A call for action."
But the discussion also acknowledges it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
Congress acting alone.
Yeah, it notes a practical difficulty. Hard for Congress to really push effective sanctions without the president involved, but it's presented as, a possibility if they could work together.
And the source does mention allies, Europe, Canada, Japan. They've been helping Ukraine and sanctioning Russia for years now.
Yes, it makes sure to point out that ongoing support. It's not just a U.S. issue, obviously.
Okay. Were there other specific details from the transcript worth mentioning?
Yeah, a couple things. For instance, it quotes Trump claiming the October 7th attack would not have happened if he were president.
Connecting back to that idea of his presidency preventing conflicts.
Right.
Hmm.
And the transcript itself, just in framing things, clearly calls Russia the aggressor and Ukrainians the ones being aggressed. It stresses respecting those fighting.
That context is important.
Definitely. And there's also this powerful phrase used about the danger, describing the situation as gambling with the lives of millions of people.
Gambling.
Yeah, and maybe even gambling with World War II by, quote, not having the cards right now.
What does that mean, not having the cards? Lack of leverage?
It seems to get at that, yeah. Like, without the right strategic position or leverage the cards, there's this immense risk in how things play out, potentially catastrophic.
And there was a brief mention of a propaganda tour. What was that about?
It seemed to come up in the context of visits to the region, just hinting at the difficulty of, getting a clear picture through all the competing narratives and, well, propaganda.
Got it. So pulling it all together from this specific transcript, we see these really clear contrasting views. Trump suggesting Putin's changed for the worse recently.
Versus the argument like Hume's that, no, this is just Putin being Putin. Consistent behavior, however brutal.
Right. And we've seen the source grapple with the horrible reality of the war and this whole debate over leverage, especially sanctions.
Yeah, drawing on specific quotes, specific arguments presented in that discussion, it really highlights how different people's perceptions of leaders' history shape how they see current events.
And what they think should be done about it.
Exactly.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on as you encounter news about this.
Yeah.
How much weight do you give to a leader's past actions versus the idea that they or the circumstances might change?
And what does this debate we've unpacked over who Putin is, what he's doing, how to respond, tell us about the different lenses people use to view these huge global crises?
Right.
Something to think about.